Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast, brought to you by Huntworth. Huntworth gear for all types of weather, all types of terrain, all types of budgets. It's clothing that just works. Check them out at huntworthgear.com. So this podcast, as the title states, some of the best information on bow hunting turkeys that exists. Our guest has been involved in over, I think he said 400 harvests of turkeys with a bow. Like, that's insane. And doing it on pressured properties, on private land, on public land, on all sorts of different types of terrain, different states, different equipment, running gunning with traditional equipment, doing it with compound bows, with a blind, without a blind, and talking about reading the turkey's body language, the snood, decoy setups, all that different stuff. It is an incredible podcast. Lock in and get ready. But first, we got to thank some of our partners. We're coming up on the end of the quarter, so this is the last week to get into the Patreon drawing for all the stuff that gives away. So any of the companies that we work with, that we partner with, we make sure that they're giving away something quarterly, and each year it's bigger and better. But we got Huntworth giving away a turkey package, pants, jacket, gloves, hat, all that stuff. Latitude gives away a set of sticks. Big Shot gives away one of their targets. Spartan Forge gives away one of their yearly memberships. Lucky Buck has seed as well as mineral, if you're in a state where you're in an area where you can use mineral. Canati gives away a set of arrows. We give away some zingers. All that stuff. Flambeau, they're giving away one of their bow cases. I got some bow cases, some decoys, some other stuff to give away from them. And then Alpine Innovations. So those guys, I haven't done anything with their vinyl harness yet. It's just rolling around in my truck. I've been using it to see how I like it. And I really do enjoy that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give away, they've got some rifle stuff to give away. And so one of the guys that's going on our Patreon bear hunt is I think I'm going to give away their rifle cover. Their rifle cover is pretty awesome. I'm going to do a video on it. I just got that new Magpul stock put on my 308, and now I can do some kind of videos and stuff with that. But we'll give away one of those, and all that just for supporting the show. Lots of guys support the show. They want to know how they can give back. And so we're going to go ahead and give away all that stuff about the second week of April. And then we're also doing, we'll also launch that Tailgate Ready Challenge with Travis Johnson, and giving away those shots for the truck at the Michigan TAC and a set of arrows. So we'll watch for the video coming out on that, but that'll be, again, after spring break, after second week of April. So all that stuff's coming down. You can check it out at patreon.com/Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. A couple of other things. So we are having a fundraiser dinner for the Muskegon Bowman Archery Foundation. So that's our nonprofit that supports kids getting into archery. It helps with the lessons, helps with everything that we do there at the club. We finally got the nonprofit. So you can go to the MuskegonBowman.com. You can check out the dinner packages. It's going to be a fundraiser dinner. It's April 13th. And we do have a couple of tables still open. Really trying to sell that out. Basically all of our friends, partners, they're giving away stuff. Going to be tons of gun raffles, catered dinner, free draft beer, tons of stuff given away. I think we're giving away 5 different bows. So going to be a great event. Check that out. Like I said, at MuskegonBowman.com, or you can go on Facebook and check them out. And then one of our other Patreons, he's helping, same deal, putting together a fundraiser dinner for the new Lakeshore Longbeards chapter of the NWTF. So they're having their first annual Heritage Banquet, and that's going to be April 18th. That's going to be in Whitehall. You can check them out on Facebook, Lakeshore Longbeards chapter. That's April 18th, and I just thought I'd give those guys a shout out because they're trying to sell out their event too. So you can go check them out. Same deal, tons of giveaways, tons of stuff, tax write-off for both of these things. So any of you guys with companies want to spend some money, want to win some outdoor equipment, have some beer, have some fun, check both of those events out. And this podcast, however, is going to Going to definitely open some eyes. Lots of information that I've not heard before. And, we've talked to a lot of different guys about bow hunting turkeys, and just tons of great information in this one. Even if you're a gun hunter, you can take away from, what he's talking about on, setups, scouting, time of day, decoys, all that stuff. So as always, thanks for listening. All right, everybody, Adam back with another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. Getting into some turkey talk today with the Mr. Keith Beam. And at these...
You use that term Mr. pretty loosely.
At these shows, I ran into him at the ATA show, and you never know who you're talking to. And that's kind of, I kind of stress that to a lot of people, even in life. So I walk up to the GSM booth and I say, hey, you got this new trail camera coming out. It's like the last day of the show. Everybody's kind of packing up. And I said, can you kind of give me the rundown on it? And kind of told them what we were doing. And we got to talking, and here we are today. So how are you doing today, Keith?
I am doing wonderful. I'm getting closer to having an entire cold steel studio built. So I'm down here in my house right now doing this rather than at where I actually work. But this actually is a little quieter environment with a lot of construction going on. But yeah, I'm kind of excited about that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. How did you get to be with Cold Steel and through the industry and stuff? Because it's a pretty impressive resume, I would say.
Well, thank you for that. I'll give you a really quick summation of my timeline. In 1993, Brooks Johnson and I developed a dart target for archery. And we named our company Double Bull Archery for the double bullseye. We both shot traditional equipment back then. In 1994, I bumped into this gentleman. I bought the patent rights off of a hub system. And in 1995, Double Bull Archery was actually no longer a target company. It was a hunting blind company. And it was the first commercial hunting blind company. It had the hub system in it, like you see all over today. It is the pop-up system, no parts to assemble, 7-second setup time, so on and so forth. So Brooks and I started that in 1995. Fast forward to 2007, I sold the Primos hunting calls. I went and worked for Will for 8 more years till 2015. I developed the kids book line, the sound interactive book line called Drake's Inventors. And with that, I kind of pursued that on my own. And I've always invented things. I've always been able to design things. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a SolidWorks fan. I can scratch stuff out on a napkin and I need an engineer to take it somewhere, but I can come up with some pretty neat things. Well, I came up with a couple new broadheads. And the Primos, Bushnell, ATK, we didn't have any broadhead lines, went over to New Archery Products, and they took me on board. So then with that, I was there probably a year, and then GSM Outdoors purchased NAP. And in that time frame, I think on my business cards, on my original business cards from GSM, there was 6 companies on the back of it. And now we own like 56 companies and 70 brands or something like that. So that is my whole world. So this is my 31st year in archery. Now switch over to why am I at Cold Steel? Well, I'm director of product innovation for GSM, but we purchased Cold Steel, and that is a gigantic sword and knife company at true swords, real swords. And Lynn Thompson's been known for cutting hogs in half and doing all this forge and fire stuff. Actually, Dave Baker worked with Lynn a long time ago. So that's where that got in. Well, they asked me, being an athlete, they're like, hey, you want to go out there and work with Lynn and learn all this martial arts and learn how to swing swords and throw knives, so on and so forth. Well, it just became like second nature to me. And Lynn's been a great instructor. So with that, I forgot to mention, I play pro baseball, so I still have a pretty good arm for an old guy. I'm 58 years old, but I was able to break world records throwing a Tanto knife for 43 yards into a bull, and then a hatchet, 50 and a half yards with Cold Steel stuff. Fast forward through all that, and here we are today. So it's that in a nutshell. My passion, my love, and I think that's why you and I hit it off and had this conversation, is bow hunting turkeys. And people around me have killed more. like an Art Helen or somebody like that. There's some people out in Nebraska that have, but I have been blessed not only to have the first hunting blind company, but a blind company that we figured out didn't scare turkeys. And I have seen so many birds up close. It's frightening. I've killed like 135 with my bow, and I've shot like 50 of them in the head with arrows. But I have probably filmed Brooks, my business partner, kill 80. Maybe Mikey, my cameraman, do that, and you take all these people that you've been around. Well, all of a sudden you start tallying it up. And I probably have witnessed 400 or more archery kills on turkeys in 31 years. So I've got a little bit of information in my brain still. If I can learn how to extract it, I hopefully can share it with you.
So, from that very grand intro, it's really easy for the listener to say, well, this guy, he's got all these, he's got African heads behind him. He's got, elk behind him. He's worked with the Primos. He's been in the industry. These are probably all managed farms, super, not pressured birds. That's all well and good, but, can you kind of talk to us a little bit about that with pressured birds, small properties, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny too, because I have been blessed to run around with the Primos guys. And then Brooks and I spent 7 trips in Africa. We had double bull outdoors. So you always want to get footage, and Africa is the best place. It's a very game rich environment. Turkey hunting, though, I still to this day kill turkeys off of public land in any state that I've lived in. All right. And I still travel out to Nebraska. And I got some buddies that have 400-acre farms along the Republican River bottom, stuff like that. But there's like the Swanson public area out there that's 9,000 acres. And up till like last year, I visited it every year. And that's where we hunted. So chasing a turkey is I chase them where they are. In Wisconsin here, people own a lot of little 40s and 60s. You might get that if and then we have 5-day seasons, and there's 6 of them in our state of Wisconsin. So you might pick a season or get drawn for the C or D season, and here's this little thing that you've been watching all spring, like right now, and you're seeing birds out there, and then the opening week they blast one of them and they run after them to go recover theirs, and those birds are spooked off. So Wisconsin has a lot of tiny farms, 160 acres, which is a great farm if you own. I'm not taking that away from it, but you're not going to be able to run and gun and run and gun and run and gun. But on that same side, right outside my house down here, probably a mile and a half, is like 4,000 acres of public land that's full of turkeys. And it's just one of those things that you've got to be wise enough to know how to hunt them. And we can get into that. I'll let you ask some questions, but I can tell you guys this right now. After all my years of waking up and hearing the bird gobble, having him pitch down and then go silent, just to hear him at 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning has taught Brooks and I a lot of things. Very seldom do I wake up at 2 hours before daylight and go sit out there. Especially if you're hunting public land. These are pressured birds. They've been around. They've been chased around. They're going to gobble on the roost. They fly down, dead silence in the woods. But all of a sudden, at about 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, one of them fire off like that. All right, they've run around with their hens. They've done their thing, and they've either been turned down or they've been successful in the mating, process of it. But all of a sudden, those get hot spots. And probably the last 10 years, I probably have killed 60 or 70 birds between 9 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Most people are leaving the field. The birds haven't gobbled. They haven't needed to gobble. They're walking around with hens right off the roost, and all of a sudden they start firing off looking for birds. And that hot bird there is the one that you can pop up and set up on and have a really good shot at. And the neat thing about that is that's most of the time when people have left that public land. So my favorite time is let's sleep in, go have breakfast. Let the people out there, I'll hoot the daylights out of them and just call the living piss out of them, and then see if we can't go out there and hunt him when he's really hot. And when a bird gobbles, after that 9 a.m. to that 2 or 2:30, and they seem to shut down until about 4:30 again. But that period right in there, in my eyes, is golden.
So from that end, how, from a strategy standpoint, I mean, obviously, and you're not saying anything that my father-in-law, so my father-in-law used to call for Rod Benson game calls, and he traveled around to the shows, and he can call turkeys where there's no turkeys. It's just one of those things, and I've learned a lot from him, and he likes that noon 1 o'clock time frame as well. But that's I would say a bit easier as a run and gun shotgun hunter. All right. So how does that lend to, either hunting from a blind or no blind? And where does the strategy come in of how are you locating these birds outside of just hearing them gobble during those hours?
Well, it's a couple of things. You take a look at your surrounding, first of all. If you're down in Mark Twain National Forest, 900,000 acres of public land, and up until this year, you had to stop hunting them at 1 o'clock. It's listening for birds. It's going out and putting birds to bed. It's understanding where they are and then kind of figuring these things out. In Wisconsin, if I'm looking around Wisconsin, we have a lot of soft rolling hills where I'm at. So you can do a lot of long distance scouting. You might see a bird strutting in a tiny little opening up there on public land that you could spot from the road at 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning. Wherever you can run and gun with a shotgun, if you don't mind carrying a blind and, all your stuff with you, it is hard packing all that, but we did it packing cameras and tripods and chairs and whatever, and decoys, that it is tough. But you can still hunt them the way that you did. I've killed birds in public land in Mississippi. I've killed them in Arkansas. I've killed them. I haven't killed any in Texas, Kansas, Nebraska, of course, here in Wisconsin. So you can still run and gun. You can play it just like that. Brooks and I used to do it all the time. And South Dakota was a great spot for it. We would bow hunt the Black Hills National Forest, and we just walk along ridge tops, and crow call or just listen. And once you get one fired up, move in and set up. You might have to move your blind 2 or 3 times. A lot of people with the portable blinds are starting to use them kind of in that permanent sense, so to speak. Okay, here's my little farmstead, and this is the corner they strut, and I'm going to leave this blind out here from the end of March till the middle of May, and we'll take people out there, and somebody will kill a bird. I'm not like that. My blinds very seldom stay out at night, and it's one of those things that I'm not interested in that. I kind of go where the birds are. We hunted some out by Prairie du Chien on public land, my wife and I. And it's a matter of,
after years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by overpriced wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I heard that Mint Mobile wireless plans are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they sell wireless service online. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That's mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
when you're traipsing through the woods and you're slipping through it, you're hoping that they gobble, and a lot of times you hope the foliage is up so you're not getting busted walking through these things, throughout the hills. You're not getting seen. But if you can find scratchings and you can find strut zones and stuff like that, they're using that in that middle of that day. They might be flying down right there. Scouting is scouting. It doesn't matter if I'm in the cypress swamps down in southern Arkansas, right on the border of Louisiana. Texas doesn't have a whole lot of good public land that I've run into, but visual, use it. Audio, next. It's one of those things. And if you have to, if you come out to a spot and you get there at 11 o'clock in the morning, you drove all night, walk the highlight, just grab your blind and go. You'll never know, float some calls off on there, don't just sit there and hammer it, but try to find one or find a spot. And J hook droppings is greatest sign in the world. Fresh J hook, there's toms in the area, or at least jakes. And it's one of those things that it's really advantageous to be wise, but you can do it just as easy bow hunt. Now, like Jay Gregory, I was executive producer of the Wild Outdoors with Jay Gregory also during that time frame. And Jay and Wyatt and those guys have gotten really good at doing it not in a blind. Okay. Small little something in front of them, hunting over their decoys, running gun, get a bird to gobble. And a lot of times in that hilly terrain, that's probably the best thing to do. Then you're not packing quite all that much stuff. You know, a gun hunter's got it made. He wears a vest, he carries a gun. You know, when we start talking blinds and we start talking bow hunting, we start talking, I got to have a chair with me and this, that, and the other thing. It starts becoming cumbersome.
Yeah. So in that scenario, right, when let's say you locate them visually and you see them out there, or you hear them gobble, they talk about that, that 100-yard kind of like hot zone, right? Where you want to get in there. What is your process for setting up and slipping in, like kind of undetected? And you just mentioned like the hill terrain and stuff like that. So let's take that out of it. Like, let's say that you're in Michigan or Nebraska where there's, flat plains and you're just seeing, okay, there's birds over there. Like I said, I feel like that's where it kind of gets hairy, where you're trying to set up a blind and try and call them back over.
The setting up the blind, if you can do it, if you can learn the steps to it, you can really set up a blind really quietly. I've accidentally set up under roost trees, and had them pitched down before. But I think you also have to understand the subspecies of the bird. And, you look at a Miriam out in Nebraska or Kansas like that, they have a pretty decent gobble, but it's flat open country. And if you're hearing it in high winds, chances are they're pretty close. They don't have that thunderous gobble of the eastern bird. If you look at Michigan or if you look at Wisconsin here, when you're close, when you feel that lower pitch resonating feel when they, you feel that, right? It's time to set up, right? You don't need to get any closer than that. It's not that, off in the distance. It's one of those things you kind of got to know your birds. You look at Florida, for example, a lot of public land down there, and I've had great success down there. Is the Osceola is in these palm thickets and these groves, and they might gobble. And you're like, wow, that was way off. You better really rethink it, because I've bumped a lot of birds down there. You start slipping through and you're going to get to this cow pasture or whatever, and all of a sudden, he's gone. He was right there. He was 60, 70 yards away. So pay attention to your surroundings, really fix on the audio signal that you're going to be receiving. Is it an Osceola? Is it a quieter Miriam? Or is it this big thunder chicken of the eastern? And kind of know that, and then know your surroundings, and then kind of have an idea. And there's where Hunt Stand, one of the companies we own, Onyx, you can take an aerial look and go, okay, that bird's gobbling right up there. There's an open pocket. Chances are he's right there. And one of the things that I've done is, if you think you're going to be slipping up on a bird in a field, it's really hard to call them out of the field to you. Okay. You can use Reaper decoys or whatever and kind of lure them in. But a lot of times that's when my calling actually becomes softer. And it's that, just that real simple stuff. I know if I call hard, he's going to shot gobble out there with his hands, right? It's fun. You're getting them all fired up, whatever. That's kind of a last resort. The best thing that can happen with that situation is you get a hen to start being a loudmouth, and you match her cadence, match her thing. So she's pow, you're pow pow, and piss her off. All right. Get her to drag that tom over there into the woods. And that's probably one of the toughest things, is calling that bird that's sitting out there in that wide open field out of that field to you. You really need to irritate a hen.
Yeah. And, in my very limited turkey experience, and it's funny that I say that, because I'm hunting with guys that have hunted for 30 years and they've been doing it, longer, as long as there's been seasons here in Michigan. But that's the only way that I kind of learned how to call, was to copy what the hen was doing. And, you'll call in hens, a lot. If you do it every time it happens, then you can usually draw them over, like whether the toms follow or whatever. But I've been hemmed up so many times with a hen right at my feet. Like, okay, now I can't do anything. Now, in that situation, like bird in a field or wherever, and I feel like if you're doing that style of hunting, and you're walking through and you're throwing out those calls and everything, you get into those situations where all of a sudden they hammer right on top of you. And then, at least for us, it's always, we're looking at each other going, okay, where do we set up? Do we set up the decoys? What do we do? Like, so from a decoy standpoint, like when do you use decoys? How do you use decoys? Big, small, giant flock, whatever.
I use decoys every single time. I like the posturing Jake. Our Avian X Jake is one of the finest. I know DSD had the posturing Jake that got started. Brooks Johnson, my old business partner, had the best damn turkey decoy, which was a posturing Jake. And if you look at a posturing Jake decoy, one of the things you'll notice is a very short deuce snood. You'll look at this redder head, not white. Okay, we want that bird that's coming in to go, this guy is passive. Okay, we don't need him to be this gigantic thing. Hunting over the big toms and the full things. I hunted over a few of them a long time ago, and they're great. Every once in a while, you're going to kill a 3 or 4 year old bird over it. But I love that passive looking Jake in a bedded hen. Those are the two decoys I carry all the time. And I'm not interested in anything other than maybe the ability to add movement to them. And decoys have to face you, have to face the blind. Okay, whether you're in a blind or not. If a turkey comes out there at 80 yards and gobbles and struts, and your decoy is facing away, they have great eyesight. They're going, you can see me. You're not coming to me. But by turning it towards you, all of a sudden, when that bird's out in front, he's gobbling, he's strutting, he's gobbling, he's strutting. And all of a sudden he goes, he's not paying attention to me. Well, that is your big chance right there of just having a decoy that, oh, it's facing me. We have this new thing. We have a remote control. I don't know in Michigan if you use it or not.
Not legal.
Okay, so a lot of states you can, though. And we just come out with this X Factor motion decoy system. And it doesn't spin the stake. It actually has a connection thing that just will get the decoy just to move back and forth. And a lot of times that's all you need is just that tad bit of movement. If you don't want to carry that, put a screw eye in the thing and carry a string. Decoy, and here's my other thing. 11 yards is my magic number. Talking with Doug Crabtree and Dave Kaiser, the late Dave Kaiser, who is a Double K Guide Service out in South Dakota, one of my dearest friends, guided 70 successful bow hunting turkey hunts a year forever. Okay, so you start hacking that up and you've got some numbers of guys that understand shot placement. Now I'll tell you why you talked to me about that. But the 11-yard thing is the perfect thing, and that's my steps away. Anything below that, and you have your sight and you have your arrow. Okay, you have a 2-inch difference there. So it's got to come up and cross the plane of the eyesight, right? And then drop back down. It does it at about 10 yards. Okay, if you put your decoys out or you're going to make a shot at a turkey closer than that, be cognizant of your sight's here and your arrow's sitting right here. All right, high they die, low they go. All right, that's just a bad thing. You hit a turkey too low, he's gone. All right. That's the thing that you got to realize, that 11 yards is a magic number for me. I know, first of all, when that bird's up there, the decoy is 11 yards, it's top pin hunt. Okay. So your confidence level goes way high, but it's also where your arrow will impact at the same spot that your sight will. Unless you got something weird, if you got a 32-inch draw length and you shoot 200 pounds or something. But if you go out and you shoot a lot of 3D shoots, you'll see some of these shots that are only like 5 yards away on a raccoon. And here's the X, and you see all these holes pounded below it. Well, the arrow's not crossing the path, and that's one of the things that I like. So it's the 11 yards, and it's either him facing you constantly, okay, or you have the ability to turn him to face you. So you might actually set that decoy out there. If you don't have a remote control, you can't use it in the state of Michigan. You have a little screw eye on there. You got a little tiny, braided fishing line on there, and he's facing away. That bird's coming through, and just have just 1/4 turn. Get him to turn away from that bird, and all of a sudden you've got your games on. And so it's one of those things that decoy placement decoy facing and decoy yardage are huge when it comes to bow hunting.
And now, I know one of the things that we're going to talk about here, and that you're really passionate about, is like body language of these turkeys. And I feel like when we talk, whether we're talking elk hunting, whether we're talking turkey hunting, whether we're talking, heck, we were talking about calling bears here recently, and it ends up to be the token answer in the podcast world is like, it's all situational. You gotta take the temperature of the bird, the elk, the deer, you gotta see what's going on. You kind of gotta see what's going on. So you've, after all of this video footage, killing all these birds, being around, like, you've got some tips for guys to kind of read all that.
With a whitetail, with an elk, with antelope, calling bear, calling predators, you do have to kind of understand that situation to read it. The neatest thing about a turkey is it gives you its book. Pay attention to this snood. Okay, that's the number one indicator of everything. If that snood is stretched out and he's making progress towards you, keep doing exactly what you're doing, or be still. And if it's what you were doing when he's coming in, just shut up. Just do not make a noise. Don't worry until that snood starts stretching back together, pulling itself back together, and then it starts getting vertical. And it's a little 3/4 inch. That 4-inch snood just went to 3/4 inch. He's nervous as hell. Okay, that's when you got to figure out, I've done something wrong. I got to change back to what it is. Or if I've been silent and he's coming in and all of a sudden he gets weird, and he's up, red head, you're going to see that white head start turning red on it, and that snood stick up like this. Purr, scratch the leaves, something really calm, but try to talk that snood back down. If you think about, this is the easiest animal in the world to read that indicator. The elk's antlers don't get bigger. Okay. The white-tailed, all these things don't give you this clue. The snood, and this is putting a TV show together for 18 years. And all we really did really well was bow hunt turkeys. Okay. And you screw up and you mess up. And that's how we learned facing the decoys. Why are all these turkeys hanging up? Well, it's because the decoys, what common denominator was there? Well, the turkey decoys were facing out. Well, we lost these turkeys when we shot them. We hit them bad, whatever. It's all low. Okay. The big thing that we started really paying attention to was this thing. And when you can watch the snood, and you can see a snood starting at about 50 yards away, especially this big old cotton top, it's swinging around, and all of a sudden he breaks out here, and all of a sudden it just goes, whoop. He's nervous as all get up. And that's where scratching leaves and things like that, this really soft, subtle stuff, will turn that snood most of the time back to that stretched out, I'm not scared version. And the other thing about reading a bird is, if he comes in and flogs your decoy, watch the show. Okay. But here's the deal. When he crosses his wings, it's over. As soon as he crosses his wings, he's probably going to walk straight away from you. Shoot him right up the back, gangster style. But when the wings cross, you are not calling him back in. You're not doing anything. He has folded up and said no. It's one thing for him to sit back there and stand a little bit like he's nervous or whatever, and still have that kind of raceway up the back. But once those wings cross, he's done. If you haven't made your draw or shot, it needs to happen right now.
Now, in that situation where you're talking about shot placement, right? You're saying, okay, well, in that case, shoot them. Everybody knows the Texas heart shot. We've all seen the little diagrams or whatever that kind of show it. But I mean, I've killed just about every turkey that I've shot at with a shotgun, and I have not killed just about every turkey that I've shot at with a bow. And,
it's the most misleading vital program you've ever seen.
And I mean, I've had plenty of opportunities here, and that's what keeps us coming back, is that it with a one bird state like Michigan, you kill that turkey with a shotgun off the roost on the first day of hunting and it's over. And, I mean, last year the turkey that I ended up, I think it was a Broadhead issue. But I shot this turkey and he ran and then flew, and then we just never found him because he flew. And, but I probably crawled a half a mile, no blind, to just trying to cut this bird off in this field. And we did kind of everything that you were talking about. We saw him from the road and worked the fence line, and it was just crawling faster than he was feeding.
Oh yeah.
And but the shot placement thing is really tricky. And so you talked about being from a traditional bow hunting standpoint, background there. And one of the guys that was kind of like our elk hunting mentor is a traditional guy since forever. And he said, you only just shoot him in the head. He said, he doesn't body shoot him. He said, the vitals aren't that much bigger than the head. And if you hit him in the head, you miss, and that's it. So
he's 100% correct. If you want a fail-safe, foolproof way of shooting a turkey, shoot him in the head. I don't care if it's with the guillotine, which we field tested. Brooks and I designed the bullhead for Magnus. It was double bullhead. That was designed by us for them. And there's a great way right there of utilizing that 4-inch target area. And the neat thing about the head, a bird strutting, especially in shadow, especially in dark timber, it's a black barrel. Okay, there he is. And you have to start deciphering where the 3 wing joint, the bones are of the wing joint right here. Then you got to kind of draw this diagonal line back here to the drumstick, which is the other kind of kill area. And right in between there's the bronze band on the thing, and he's in full strut. And you have to pound it right into that area. High they die, low they go. Okay, too high it goes through feathers, too low it goes through breast meat. A turkey in full strut is almost laying horizontal. And I did this thing for New Archery Prizes, and maybe you can share that video or not out there, but their vitals are all pressed up against their back. Dave Kaiser, my buddy, my late buddy that out there in South Dakota, had lost a lot of birds with his clients and whatever. So we decided to freeze one and sawzall it in half. Okay. And figure out what's going on. And oh my goodness, the lungs are pressed up against the back. Okay. You have this little heart that's, the size of this. All right. His head's this big. And you got this. You got the lungs are here, and you got this little heart, and you got some other organs in there. You can gut shoot him or whatever. But you have to understand that the bones off that wing will create a V in the feathers. Okay. And then there's the bronze band, and I'm talking about bird strutting, not just standing there. So anywhere a diagonal line from that point, not forward of that wing joint, you cannot, that's just breast meat. Okay. So that busting that down. And if you don't shoot high poundage, come back off of that, because I've seen it hit with lots of poundage right on that. And a turkey is the toughest animal in the world, pound for pound, 100%. You can cripple that, follow blood, whatever, jump him, he'll fly off a canyon, and you'll see him hit the ground and take off running. I mean, you're like, how do they do this? All right. They are really, really a tough animal. The worst thing you can do is smash that joint right there without a ton of kinetic energy, where that bird's doing cartwheels. Because if that bird is just doing cartwheels, his wings broke, but he's not dead. Okay. If he does one cartwheel and lays there, you're going to shoot him. If he's doing cartwheels, have another arrow knocked, as soon as he stops, you're going to shoot him, because that bird is not dead. All he's got is a broken wing. All right. So stay off of that if you're not shooting 60, 70 pounds, and come back here like an inch and then draw that diagonal line. And if you watch that bronze band, and I know the holders are talking about it a lot, they like to shoot him right through the drumsticks because it anchors that bird. It puts him down. He can't jump. He can't fly away, and he can't run away if his legs don't. Okay. I'm a believer, and I know where the vitals are. I'm going to kill that bird. Okay. That's my premise. But if you don't have a great grasp, here's another one. A bird facing straight at you. He's got this beard down here, and he's got this beautiful V right here. If you don't pound it right through that, between the dwaddles and on top of there where that breastbone separates, and get into there, you're going to hit that gigantic breastbone and run down the body of that bird. You're going to peel meat the whole way back, and it's muscle meat. All right. You might catch an artery in the leg or something like that if you're real fortunate. But if you're going to shoot that head-on bird, you better know where it's at. Stay above that beard and pound it in the throat gap right here. And don't take that shot unless you feel super, super comfortable, because a bird facing you is going to do something other than face you, right? Unless he walks into your lap. All right. He's not going to just keep coming. So he's going to eventually turn, or he's going to turn and walk away. And, if you think about decoys at 11 yards, put a bird out there. He's in full strut. You're holding your bow. You're poised for action, like here, here, here. He finally goes into this full strut and he turns his butt end towards you. You're at full draw right here. If he holds that pose, you just drill him right above the snake hole right there. And that ends that game as well. That comes out his chest. So, but a bird facing you it's not going to just keep, he's not going to end up here. He's going to turn and go this way. He's going to turn and go that way. He's going to turn and go back at the decoys. So give that a chance unless you know the vitals. Otherwise, your recurve shooter, your traditional guy, is 100% correct. It is so much easier to take a pin or an arrow if you're shooting 3 fingers under or 1 over and you're shooting traditional, or if you're shooting a pin, to put it on a red and white surface that's that big, rather than during the excitement trying to figure out where that wing joint is and that drumstick.
Now, with you just mentioned there white and red, and that's something that we kind of glossed over. But when we're utilizing our decoys and when we're looking at these birds coming in and stuff, when we're talking about body language, like what does that mean? Red head, white head. Sometimes they turn blue, like all of that sort of stuff. And then what does that mean if you have a white headed decoy or red headed decoy? And are you flocking your decoys, anything like that?
No, the redhead is one that's timid. That's one that's passive. Will Primos and I got into one of the greatest arguments in the world. He's killed 1,000 turkeys with his shotgun. Okay. And he's telling me that the redhead is the big aggressive one. No, it's not. When a bird, think about it. When you look through the woods or you're sitting in a blind and you use your binoculars and all of a sudden you see a redhead, you haven't heard him make a peep, right? Bright redhead standing there looking around, right? What do you see when you hear the white one? He's coming through the woods. Okay. Snood's hanging down, right? The white one is the big passive dominant, or not passive, the big dominant gobbler. All right. The redhead is a timid animal. So if you're looking at decoys and you go to one with this giant white head on this thing and an enormous snood hanging down, you're hunting 4 and 5 year olds because your 2-year-olds aren't coming into that. They might come in with a band of 6 jakes or something like that and take it on. But it's one of those things that we don't want to spook the bird. And if you've got this 24-pound looking decoy out there with this gigantic white head, that's the King Kong. All right. That's the mass daddy right there. Give me a little timid jake with the shoulders rolled up, and a little snood up and a half red head on him. That's the one they want to come in and just pea stomp. I'm keeping this really PG.
Yeah. No problem either way on that. And when we're talking about, obviously bow hunting turkeys, and you had, said that you developed that, guillotine or the bullhead. What are you looking for in a broadhead for turkey, and how does it differ necessarily from whitetail or elk or something like that?
The thing that I want to do is I'm going to match as much cutting surface as I can for poundage. If you're shooting 60 to 70 pounds, shoot a 2-inch bladed something. Spitfires have been tried and true. Art Helen, the guy I hunt with over there, Art Helen Outdoors, he has a Spitfire tattooed on his arm from I think they came out with that 27 years ago. So when he met Andy Simo at New Archery Products back then, he started shooting it and he just started slaughtering turkeys with it. The DK4 is a broadhead that I designed for New Archery Products that we brought over in our line. And it has a fixed blade with I want to say it's impact responsive blade system on the fix. So it's locked in, but it can kick either way. And then it has the tried and true Spitfire bleeder blades, but they all impact at the same time. So it blows the 4-blade hole. So when I hunt, and Brody Swisher just asked me this question this morning when I was driving out here, that what broadhead do you shoot? I shoot this DK4 1.75-inch broadhead, and it's a cut. It's a trophy tip. One of the things Andy Simo did that a lot of people don't know, first of all, he was the lead engineer on Apollo 7. So he was the one that landed the thing on the moon. Okay, so he's a pretty clever guy. He's the one that developed Quick Tune 3000. He developed the flipper rest. He developed all these things. But when he came out with the Thunderhead, the first replacement blade, Broadhead, he developed the Spitfire, which was one of the first mechanicals, if not the first mechanical. He flattens off the tip of his thing 6/1000ths of an inch. You don't see it. It feels sharp to your finger, when you touch it, but it's actually squared off. Why do you do that? So when a broadhead hits, if it's really, really sharp, like a cut on contact, it cuts, and then it has all this flappy things to hopefully grab and make the mechanical work. He figured if I've stretched the skin, then the blades hit, what's it do? It cuts a bigger hole. All right. So it's a brilliant invention. And that patent's long gone. But it's one of those things that I like to hit a turkey with as much womp as I can have, with as much cutting as I can, dish out to him. And something like the Spitfire. I shot 2 birds last year with our new, it's called the Sling Blade TI4. It's a titanium 4-blade sling blade version of the, I guess if you went back to the 30 years, it'd be like the Rocky Mountain Gator. That's that kind of hinge. These goes down and these come out like that. So it's one of those things that it's really a good use. Hit poundage. Now, if you shoot traditional, shoot a fixed blade. If you're shooting, like my wife, I have her shoot a 4-blade fixed blade. It's the quad cutter from New Archery Products or True Bow when they came over. But that's the broadhead she shoots. That way, if she hits that wing joint that I talked about, rather than getting him to flop like that, if she was shooting a small mechanical, it's going to skip off. It's going to get into that body. She hit the right spot, but she might have hit right on that bone. And bone on a turkey is tough as tough gets. And you can't deliver too much punishment to a turkey. That's where shooting them in the head is good. Now, I'm going to switch gears. I know I'm rambling. When you hunt a passive Jake decoy like I do, he's cowering down, right? He's got a little deuce in it. You're going to get the flogging, okay? You're going to get that bird that's beating him wings. This is never standing still, all right? It's not that. If you're hunting over late season and maybe you only want to hunt over a hen decoy or whatever, you catch that tom sliding in. That's this target right here. You wouldn't want to sit with me over the AVNX, the little HDR Jake, and go, I'm going to shoot him in the head. Okay. It's just not going to happen. His head is never going to sit still. You might shoot all your arrows in your quiver. You might kill him, but you'll have fun doing it. But he won't know it. It'll be flying by him. He didn't care. But they are it's a flogging decoy. If he jumps over it, and that's why I like using the bedded hen, because if he'll go over there and stand on her, all of a sudden he's still and he's calm. So you give me a bird that's calm, you give me a bird that's locked up and strut, just standing there like that, I'm going to shoot him right in the eyeballs. I can send you a video. I shot a bird. It was just with a rage broadhead. I shot him through this eyeball and out that eyeball in Texas. And it was one of those things that it was just, I knew it was going to happen, And those are those things. You kind of got to pick the idea of what you're going to do hunting over the decoys that you've got. If he comes in and flogs the decoy, you got to be ready to shoot him in the body. If he goes over the hen, you probably shoot him in the head. So just be cognizant of that too. You got to play a lot of these things out in your mind, because there's really, other than elk hunting, there's nothing more exciting than a turkey 11 yards away just ravishing your decoys. I mean, just kicking stuff everywhere, 2 or 3 of them, and you're just like, this is the scene, this is the show. So don't rush the shot and try to watch the whole show. That's what's fun. Then when they fold their wings, they start walking, shoot them right in the back, because that's the best shot you can probably put on a turkey other than his head. If you shoot him straight in that back, when his wings are crossed, he gives you that thing. It goes from the top of his head all the way down to his tail. You will have a zone. And when he does that, those lungs are pressed up against his back, pop that cavity, and he's going nowhere. So
for guys we've got a lot of guys that have never turkey hunted or have never tried it with a bow. For these new hunters going out there trying to bow hunt turkeys the first time, and I think a lot of times people will try it no blind because of all the things we outlined right at the beginning, where you got to bring all this stuff and all these things. Like, what would your biggest tips be for the guy that's going out there for the first time on public ground?
Okay. I would actually take a blind. I would take a chair. I would head out there. You can get out there before daybreak if you're new to turkey, and it's nothing like hearing that, all down the canyons and whatever. But stay there. Okay. Don't leave that area. If you're on a ridge or a knoll or a little pocket somewhere and there's turkey sign around there, okay, maybe you haven't seen a tom there, but you did see some jay hook 2 days ago, 3 days ago. Set up, sit your ass down, and just be patient. If I'm new to turkey hunting and I'm in an area that has turkeys, if I don't overcall and I sit there from daybreak or at least 9 o'clock till 2, a bird will show up. And whether you kill him or not is another thing. But if there are birds in that area and you learn how to purr and you learn how to just cluck and cut every once in a while, the some of my best friends are championship turkey callers, and you were talking about it's one of those things. Yeah. Oh my God, they sound like, and you'll hear hens do that, and mocking a hen is great like that. But you'll call more birds in with the just having that really soft thing on a slate, on a glass. And one of the things I like, a high pitched glass, and crack that thing over and then just sit there and purr on it and cluck and scratch the leaves. And one of the neat things about having a blind is it conceals your movement, right? So I'm sitting in a chair, not much is happening. I'll rake the leaves. One of the things we learned for blinds is for deer hunting, take all the blinds, push it all the way into, or all the debris in the blind, push it all the way to the edge for deer hunting. Then when you get your natural thermals, when they drop, it's going through this earth and then going through the leaves, getting out. Okay. Really helps cut down your scent. Turkeys leave all that vegetation in there and scratch like a turkey would do. Scratching the leaves. All of a sudden you'll hear and he hasn't gobbled, and that's one of the things I wish somebody would you'd kill probably all the turkeys. If you could do the spit and drum sound, you probably would kill every turkey that's out there. And there's been a lot of companies, I know Nature Vision tried building it, and they had this vibrating box thing, and they were going to have, and it's going to go up like that. But that's the sounds that you have to listen for. Get really well aware of the woods. But if you're new to turkey hunting, you're hunting public land, there are birds there. Some of them are pressured, most of them are pressured. Sit out there, get in an area and sit your ass down and be patient. You have to get him to relax enough to come to you, or be fired up enough in the day when everybody else has left the woods. Okay. People walk out of there, if you're set up in the morning, you have to sit past 9. Okay. If you're going out there, sit 9 till 2, give yourself the best odds. And really that is your best odds.
And then from a calling standpoint, I feel like you kind of touched on it there a little bit, but I feel like guys always think that exactly what you kind of outlined, that diaphragm calls are sexy, right? Like, oh, you got to be a good caller. You got to be able to, yeah. It's very, it's very animated. That's what makes you a real turkey hunter, right? But from a calling standpoint, for a new guy, what do you recommend?
Here's one for you. I called in a lot of calling contests, and some of them were state championships. But it was one of the things that Brooks, my business partner, for the longest time, I would kill jakes. My cameraman and me would go off, and I'd kill a jake with my bow, and he'd always be killing beards, and he couldn't stick a diaphragm in his mouth. He had a box call he could purr on, and a box call he could cluck on, and very seldom did he get all that. And he'd do it all the time, just constantly. And these big birds were just dive bombing on. Well, then finally, like, we started hunting together rather than trying to double up our forces, and started hunting together. And I'd watch him, and we would lead always. He would lead for the whole period unless we had to get loud, like nothing has happened. He's been calling for an hour and a half, every 15, 20 minutes. He's on a box call, and then, just carrying on like that, just nice, easy stuff. So we haven't seen anything. Then I would get involved and I would do this real aggressive calling. Well, then we started really killing birds because it was a neat combination of things. And that's when we sat together. You started reading the deuce snood. Brooks's birds that come in are coming in with this deuce snood stretched out because he's just been making the sound of a real pleasant hen. I'm cutting over here and whatever. And a lot of times I'll gobble with the diaphragm and go after them and fire them back, and they're coming in and they're like, what in the hell's out here? This is the loudest hen I've ever seen in my life, and it's one of those things that, again, read the situation. But tip being, get out there, sit out there. If that's a spot that has turkeys, sit your butt down, get in blind, get comfortable on a chair and play the game and listen. That's the biggest thing. The other fun thing about being blind is the first time you ever do it. If a bird gobbles here, it'll echo off of this side of the blind. You'll argue with your eyes coming from this side, and all of a sudden and then he's dragging and saying, oh shit, he's right here. He's 12 yards away on the other side, but that sound hit that blind and bounced off because when double bull started off, all of our blinds were canvas cotton. Duck fabric. Okay. They weren't polyesters. They weren't coated polyester. We printed black on the back of. So they were very, very natural in quietness and very, very natural for sound audible. Now you've got all this PU coating on the back of this black coating that's on it. And that's what they call it. It's not like PU. It stinks. It's just called PU coating. And it bounces sound. So be thoughtful of that if you think that bird just gobbled over there, chances are he's over here. So be wise to that too.
And then from the blind scenario, we've got some of the muddy blinds that I don't know if they're like the 270s or whatever, where you can see through them a little bit. And I feel like we've been busted by the birds setting up depending on where the sun is and kind of like what our movement is. So what is your take on these new, invisible blinds?
Okay, so I've got to be really politically correct here because we do make preview, which is all netting. The neat thing about netting is in a non-hot sun area, you have pretty good visibility. Right? I mean, almost like normal visibility out. Nothing can see in. They don't see in. Problem is you're letting all this light in. And like the old day blinds, we would wear the black. And this is another thing. Your bow hand, I'm left-handed, your bow hand has to have a glove on it. Most people are right-handed. They got a wedding ring here. This is the closest thing to that turkey. When you draw your bow, if you don't have this black, when you come out of a black, all of a sudden it's this white hand that just came up and just moved, as soon as you draw. I'm left-handed. So it has to have a glove on this hand at least, okay? Wear black inside of a black back blind. Match all your surroundings, but you don't want to get busted with that. Paint your face. I know it's not, a lot of guys do these really cool designs. Paint the damn face, all right? I want it black. When I'm filming somebody from another blind, it is nuts when I show them the footage. They're moving around like this. They're moving around like this. They're playing like this with their white hands. And it's nuts how much you give away. Now, with the netting blinds, they let in a ton of light. They're not necessarily all black on the inside. They might have a black wall behind you, but it's letting in a ton of light. You have these shooting windows that are wide open. Okay, you have to have them open, right? Shoot out of it. Stuff's not shoot through material anymore. So you have to really be cognizant of when you move. You're not going to draw when that animal is standing out there staring at you. It is not going to happen. You will get busted. You can walk out there with your buddy. You can't see through the net, but open that window and have him look at you and then have you move around. You'll get busted. Black, even wearing black is not going to save your butt there. So with those with the netted blinds, it is imperative that you understand when to draw. When that bird is facing away, when that bird is in full strut facing away, those are the times that you draw. So little movement is possible in there. In a dark blackback blind, you can get away with a lot if you're wearing black. Now, those netted ones on moisture days, moisture refracts light, and that kind of bends light. So now you get this, it's really hard to kind of see out of, and in low light situations, like if the sun's setting and you're looking into the southwest, or if the sun's rising and you're looking into the east, and here it is. Once that sun hits that net starts reflecting light in all different directions. It's almost blinding. Okay. I don't like that. Okay. We sell a lot of, I have buddies that kill the daylights out of our previews. Okay. They are in tune with the hunt. They know what to do. They've been in a blind lots of times, and they know I will not touch, move, or do anything until that bird's looking away. Or if it's coming down the side and you're watching it in one of these netted blinds, you have to be at full draw before it gets to that window. I mean, he can't see you draw, so take advantage of that. But when he's in that window, you have to be rock still. So if you want to see everything, and one thing nice about those netted blinds, like the preview and the preview too, they weigh so much less than a fabric blind. Okay, you don't have a coating, you don't have the fabric. All right, you got net. It's kind of a contradiction of things going into the fall hunting deer out of them, but it's one of those things that it lets in good sound. All right, so you're going to have more of a sound base, a true sound base of where those animals are coming. And if you're hard of hearing, like Jay Gregory, who played in a band his whole life, and Nugent, wear some walkers that amplify. Get some of the inner disruptors or silencers or something like that. Something that you can turn up, that you can hear out there, because that hearing, believe it or not, is really more important than seeing it, because there are so many different terrain things. Even if you're looking at a field and you're not seeing something, but something gobbling out front, it could be just like a 4-foot drop off you're not aware of, and he's over there. And if you're not focused on this is where he's at, he might surprise you on that. So audio is a huge thing to do. But I just rambled, don't I?
No, that was good. That, because that's one of the things that, again, we as like podcasters and stuff like that are 100% like part of this problem of this is the newest, greatest, latest thing. And if you got someone who's never hunted out turkeys, never hunted out of a blind, never hunted any of this stuff, and they say, oh man, these 360 blinds are going to be so great, I'm going to be able to see, they're not going to be able to see me. And you just kind of went through the reason why they're good and why you might steer away from them or be a little bit more cautious.
Well, you have to understand, this is your sight and this is your arrow. A lot of people shoot blinds. Okay, there's that shot right there. It's a gimme. Whack, nothing happened to that animal. What happened? You look down there and you shot a hole through your blind. So a lot of these netted blinds have this window opening over the hub that's V-shaped this way. Okay, Brooks and I learned a long time ago that this triangle right here is a tough one unless you're shooting traditional equipment, because all this side right here, your sight can be in here and it's wide open, but there's a rod here, there's fabric here or net there, and you have to make certain that you are above that hub with your hands. So I always use my fist as my barometer. So my arrow sits on my fist, right? So if my fist on top of my fist is going out of the blind, I know that my arrow is going out of the blind. But a lot of people, when the excitement's going on, here's their pin, it's in this opening, but their arrow's right here. And you're going to smack a rod, you're going to smack the blind, you're going to screw your shot up. So be cognizant of that don't set your blind up to have this V as the decoy there. The corners of the blind are where the magic happens, and leave as much closed as you can, so it's dark as you can, or it's less see-through as you can. That's the key right there. And then use that stuff to your advantage. Like I said, when we're excited, you can hold a full draw for 30, 40 seconds. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things that if you have a bird coming down and you're at full draw and you want to watch the show, it's easy to sit there and watch the show. It's a lot easier than he's there and then you draw and it's putt and he's gone. And now you can't make the shot. All right. Sorry about that. There's a delivery of a gel dummy that I have to whack in half for cold steel. And it's an $1,800 dummy and it weighs 250 pounds. And these people are in a panic about it. So sorry.
Yeah, no problem. And I think we can kind of wrap this up, with whatever, unless you think we've glossed over anything, or is there anything kind of important?
I stated it earlier that, kind of match the poundage of your bow. Like a 2-inch mechanical for that 60 to 70 range. If you're in that 50 to 60 range, I know bows are much more efficient than they are. Shoot a smaller mechanical or a fixed blade with multiple blades, like I said, with like a quad cutter that my wife shoots like 51 pounds, and I just have her shoot the quad cutter. I want to get penetration on those birds. The other thing, like when you hit a deer weighs 200 pounds and it can take a lot of this force and the arrow is going to go through it. All right. You can smack a turkey and catch a bone and it'll do exactly like a car that's in a crash that's well designed. It's going to just dissolve most of that impact, and they can shed that. They can skip off of things like that. So we want to crash that bird and we want to get into that bird. So don't drop your poundage. I know I used to give seminars and people would be like, I'm going to take it down to 45 so I can hold it longer, whatever. Okay. I want to blow through the bird. If I could hit him with a grenade, I'd hit him with a grenade because they are the toughest creatures in the world. The other tip that I would give you is, contrary to anybody out there, and I'll argue with Fred Eichler every day of the world on this, you do not have to brush your blind to kill turkeys. Turkeys see in a two-dimensional flat form. Okay, if your blind shines in the sun and it's out there in the middle of a field, yeah, they might hang up at times because they see this giant glare thing. But it was explained to me that they either are missing rod or their cones, so they don't have that depth field. So if it's not flapping in the wind and it's not glare shining off of them like a mirror or anything like that, you don't need it. Turkey is not smart enough to put 2 and 2 together. There are places that I have hunted with outfitters that turkeys know where those blinds have been. Why do they know that? Well, because everybody that's ever shot a turkey out of there doesn't wait for him to die or run off. They throw the blind off just like they've seen these gun hunters do, and all these, mossy oak, let's go get him, and the birds scatter. Well, they're spooked about what's in that blind. Okay. We're not trying to educate them there, but you do not have to brush your blind in to beat a turkey. Shut your back windows though. Any blind is open in the back and open in the front is a silhouette. And it actually looks like a flashlight at a distance. I used to film Brooks probably 60 yards away so we could get this whole neat view of the turkeys coming into a blind. But he had a crack in his window like that. At first, I thought he was shining a flashlight at me, giving me signals. I throw my binoculars up and he's just looking around like this, and his body covers the window, and then his body's not covering that little bitty slit in the window. And he's doing this and he's doing that. Well, it's this gigantic looking bright light coming through you. So if he'd have been doing that when a bird was out front, it'd have been put, gone. So make sure you're not silhouetted. Don't worry about brushing blinded.
Awesome. What do you guys have going on at GSM or Cold Steel that you guys are excited about this year?
A lot of things. The new revolver camera from Stealth gives you 6 zones. It's a great food plot type camera. Put it out in the food plot wherever that animal is. It's going to videotape it or take photographs of it. We've always been kind of limited to that 180 degrees or actually about 120 degree cone off the motion sensor based on backed up against a tree where the revolver will do it like this. AVNX, the HDR decoy line is still probably the best one that's out there. And I know that I sound like I'm selling my company, but it truly, if I wasn't working for this company, I would tell you the AVNX, HDR Jake, and Bedded Hen are the absolute best. I really would. New archery products, like I said, we got the new Sling Blade, Titanium 4. I think that's one of the greatest things from the Apex line we've got, which is the top of the line beyond True Glow of archery products, and hence the neat name Apex. But we've got the Aegis Pro and the Covert Pro, which are some great sights.
Well, so if anybody has any questions or they want to follow up on any of the stuff that we talked about, is there a way that guys can follow along with you on social or check out on YouTube?
Yeah,
any of that stuff?
Like I said, this is my 31st year. I do have a Facebook page, but the stuff that I post is all Cold Steel and it's all related that way. I can give you a way of getting a hold of me, and I'll have you post that. You can actually do it on my Cold Steel email. I'll give you my. Can I do this? Can I give an email?
Yeah, go ahead.
There, if you go to or email kbeam, KBEAM at gsmorg.com. That's my personal email. Don't overwhelm me, because I can show you on that phone right there. There's like 4,700 emails I have not answered. But you can reach out to me anytime, and I'll try my very best to get back to you. There's a wealth of knowledge up here that we've not touched on, and then there's this barrier called old time and old age that sometimes I forget to point out some of the real obvious stuff. But Don't be shy. If I gave you one tip, sit your ass in a blind and sit there where there's turkeys. Don't go where there's not turkeys. Okay.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it, Keith. Lots of information, and I really appreciate the time.
No problem. Thank you very, very much for all you do.